Professor, Physician, Epidemiologist. I am Dr. Sri Banerjee. Hello, I'm Dr. Sri Banerjee, and in this segment I'm going to be going over original research that's been accepted to have been presented in Heart and Diabetes Conference taking place in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. And I'll be presenting this original research in this conference, and it was accepted to do so. So let me go ahead and get started here. Again, here, stroke, there is higher evidence, there's more evidence that demonstrates that stroke leads to deteriorating physical health. That is a given. However, how much does it affect, and what is the connection with overall mortality? So does the occurrence of stroke, that's the question, increase the overall mortality? And what is that value? In 2021, 1 in 6 deaths from cardiovascular disease was due to stroke. If you want to put that into perspective, that means that 3 minutes, 34 seconds, someone dies of stroke. So about 185,000 strokes, nearly 1 in 4 are in people who have had a previous stroke. So the fact that if you've had a stroke, maybe a mini stroke, transient ischemic attack, more than likely there will be another stroke, unfortunately experienced by the person. This is the next visual is quite interesting because, like I've stated in other presentations, this shows the connection between stroke and food insecurity, and food insecurity is one of the 5 domains of the social determinants of health. Not food insecurity per se, however, it's under the category of economic stability. So in terms of the food insecurity and stroke and food insecurity, let's take a look at the map, zoom in. Okay, so this is showing the relationship between stroke and food insecurity, and there is a actually in the south you can see there's a connection between the two. The deep red is where there's a higher connection between food insecurity and stroke. So this is a good visual here. Let's zoom back out here. And then, so here's back to the poster. What I did is provided again, the domains of the social determinants of health. This is actually looking at healthcare and healthcare quality. So let's go through the methods here. So previous stroke was determined through self-reported data. And then overall mortality was gleaned from the ICD-9 codes. This is a longitudinal analysis, so the statistical test that was most appropriate here was the Cox regression. So the follow-up was through 1999 through 2010, and that was actually a different subject, so that was once there was follow-up from 1999 to 2010 into December 31st, 2019, once that connection was established through fusing various data sets, then you could determine longitudinally what that connection is. Healthcare professionals should be aware of course, not only mental health, but understanding what the effect of stroke is in overall mortality. Let's take a look at some of these other maps here. So again, stroke-related mortality also is most common in the South. However, this actually goes into the north way further than the connection between food insecurity and stroke. So here's part of the stroke belt, and then going into the Appalachia area, there's more stroke occurrence here. So looking at some of the looking at some of the further results, let me get us to the other map and then some of the other Cox regression results. Let me zoom in to the other area and look at the map here. So this is a hotspot analysis, and where there's higher preponderance, there will be a connection in stroke. So this is looking at some of this, and so the red becomes solid in the south, and then there's not too much stroke going on in the northern section. Again, the Appalachia section is actually covered. So all of these hotspot analysis, and even some of the analysis that was conducted looking at the connection between stroke and food insecurity, and then looking at stroke singularly, and then looking at the hotspot analysis. This is telling the same story again and again. It's saying that it's important to be pooling resources into areas that there is a high preponderance of stroke. Now let's take a look at the connection between stroke and overall mortality, and what is that saying? So data was available for 14,504 respondents, and then the percentage of individuals who experienced mortality after stroke was higher among African Americans. So 1.5% versus in Hispanic Americans 0.55%. So that's a stark difference. The overall unadjusted hazard ratio for stroke to no stroke was 6.16. So there was a 6.16 times, if you had a stroke, of overall mortality than individuals that did not have a stroke. Take a look at this. This is a high percentage, and what's unique in our study is that we were able to look at how we were able to look at some of these precise numbers which have not been established before. The adjusted hazard ratio, which was controlled for obesity, gender, age, poverty, income ratio, these were adjusted for, and even after adjustment, there was 1.97 times adults with stroke that had experienced overall mortality. So going into the conclusions here, if you take a look here, there's a significant relationship between the occurrence of stroke and overall mortality. Furthermore, we found that using County Health Rankings 2018 to demonstrate the southern portions experiencing more stroke-related mortality. So this was abundantly established through all of the different maps that we drew and demonstrate through the results. So there is obviously a stroke belt which has been established. However, the number that was there of 1.97 times, even after adjustment, is quite alarming. So future studies need to look at this in a longitudinal level, further longitudinal, following patients from one time frame to another to see what is exactly the pathophysiology that's going on. However, stroke leads to higher inflammation, which then also the atherosclerotic plaques might prevent some of the bloodstream from going into the brain, and this might starve the brain cells of oxygen, which then is the fuel of the brain. So this is the connection. I wanted to recognize my co-authors that were part of this and contributed was Rafael Gonzalez Lagos. So this concludes this presentation. I wanted to further also thank the Heart and Diabetes Conference organizers and everyone that has put this together. I hope this has made sense. Thank you for listening.